Wherever you may be watching us from, this is News Review, the very final or last news review for 2020. My name is Lamin Jai. Coming up on the show today, Foni and their love for Aprc and former President Yahya Jammeh. Fatou Camara looks at what the deputy spokesman of Aprc recently said, and the fact that President Barrow held a meeting in Biam and not many men turned up at the meeting. Turkish military has donated items to the Gambia Armed Forces. We have a report on that. Two foundations who deal in maternal mortality have engaged journalists on recent maternal mortality cases in the country. And my guest on News Review today is Dr. Ismaila. He gets the last slot there for 2020. With all of this, we'll quickly see what the newspapers are reporting on today. We have the Standard newspaper. By the way, their paper looks really impressive today. And then we have the Point. So the Standard is reporting that Mamadou Touro Dabo wins Gambian of the Year 2020 award. Murder suspect escapes from Mile2 prison. Late Diba or Lamin Diba's family explains rejection of condolence money from Barrow. Sidinjai, GDC is a dying party. Barrow says tour is not a waste of public funds. Let's see in detail what the stories are saying. Gambian philanthropist and businessman Mamadou Touro Dabo and his foundation, VDF, were last evening conferred the Gambian of the Year award by the Standard newspaper in a ceremony at Ozone Bay Hotel. Murder suspect escapes from Mile2 prison. A remanded prisoner Buba Drame standing trial for the killing of one Buba Jammeh during the Berending Gunjur land dispute has escaped from the Mile2 Central Prison. Late Diba's family explains rejection of condolence money from Barrow. The family of the late former lands minister Lamin Diba has issued a statement over their rejection of the $50,000 given to them by President Adama Barrow. Sidinjai, GDC is a dying party. Sidinjai, a key NPP surrogate, has said the GDC's recent queries about whatever the president does or says is a sign of desperation of a dying party. Barrow says tour not a waste of public funds. President Adama Barrow has said that contrary to his opponent's view, the ongoing nationwide Meet the People tour is a waste of money, but a useful exercise that, among other things, makes it possible for his government to swiftly respond to the plight of the citizens across the country. We now move to the Point. Information Minister reacts to alleged parading of minors. Standoff at C4 school takes new dimension. Witness says he was arrested 40 days after delivery. Inferno renders 98 people homeless as 6 households perish. The Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahim Asilla, says President Adama Barrow's National People's Party is against anything that abuses the rights of children, while claiming the party does not need children to attract support as they are not registered voters. President Barrow and his NPP entourage came under severe criticism from sections of the public and opposition after allegations that the party arranged children in the streets to welcome the head of state during his recent nationwide visit there. However, while responding to the allegations, Information Minister Silla said anything that abuses the rights of children, we are against it. That's his comments there. Inferno renders 98 people homeless. At least a total of 98 people from the community of Sare Gide village in the Wuli East district of the Upper River region are currently homeless as fire ravaged 6 compounds in the village. Standoff at C4 school takes new dimension. The Village Development Committee of C4 and the School Management Committee have expressed anger over the administrative affairs of the village's upper and senior secondary school, with claims that they are not involved in the welfare of the institution. Yeah, I think that's all for the newspapers. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching News Review today, 31st December 2020, the very last news review for this year. Foni and their love, that is the people of Foni and their love for APRC and former President Yahya Jammeh. Farouk Kamara looks at what the deputy spokesman of APRC, Duduja, said recently regarding the fact that NPP is a no-go area the Foni is a no-go area for NPP, and the fact that the president went there, held a meeting in Buyam, and not many men showed up at the event. More in this report.
If there is any region whose people are forever sympathetic to the former ruling party APRC, it's Foni. The people of the region supported the party throughout its 22 years of rule and continue to do so till today. APRC deputy spokesman has not lost sight of this.
As far as Foni is concerned, their loyalty, they have demonstrated that. APRC in general, we've seen it in other political parties. We have 5 MPs and about 12 councillors. None of them has cross-carpeted for the 5 years we've survived as opposition. One thing beautiful about the party is the people are committed and their loyalty, it's definitely unquestionable. So Foni is not APRC alone. Yes, it's a stronghold. I agree. We have a lot of loyal people in there. But I'm not foreseeing mass cross-carpeting because the people of Foni are still struggling. They're still suffering under President Adama Barrow's government. They've been marginalized. That's the bottom line.
Since taking over power in 2017, President Barrow has been making moves to seduce the people of Foni to himself. But Foni is no go area for him, according to Duduja.
Talking about Foni, unless even if they import their own crowd, they will not have a crowd like the APRC does. That is quite factual, that no matter what you do in Foni, it's not like what you give them moves them. They don't have their liberty and freedom. You go around, patrol around the Foni end, you'll see the Senegalese soldiers, economic troops and the like, as if the people of Foni have committed a heinous crime. I don't see the need for that. And you want to win their loyalty, you want the same people to support you when they're living under very difficult conditions.
The president held a meeting in Buyam where his tourism minister Ahmad Ba complained the men of the village did not turn up.
Mom, biko yalla di génné diko feñal suñ biir ñenn si ñun ñu ngi si kaso bi ñenn si ñun ñu fanaanee tey ëllëg duñ ci fanaan yàlla indi ko si ñetti weer yàlla def ko président ci réew mi deret tuuruwut yàlla fal ko ci biir réew mi bon na nit ñi delluwaat gannaaw gestuwaat seen boppa xam ne yàlla mooy dogal mbiram ci kaw loolu bugga sa réew bugga réew mi war a jëm kanam ñu jur réew mi mun na nekk benn ñu génne fi bekkoor ak ñàkka foog Gambien si ànd nekk benn foog ñu gën a delloo suñ bopp si yàlla dëgg la am na lu fi xew tey góor ñu bari bu yaam génnuñ waaye aduna yàlla du may yëpp liñ dem ci réew mi léegi ñu am ñeent fukki meeting yu passé waaye dafa am lu ma dee wax président Barrow ngeen déglu ma bu baax gis nga mbir moo nekk ci àddina tey nga see yëngatu di ko wut soo àndeeg jigéen ñi rek ak ndaw ñi moom nga ko yaa ko moom bi ma dugasee fii ma seen jigéen ñi seen cawarte ak seen kontante suma yaram dafa daw ma gom ne nag li ma la waxoon président Barrow dinaa ci delluwaat ku saf jigéen ñi suukar ak lem koo xam ne saf nga jigéen ñi suukar ak lem soo fuloo góor ñi te président Barrow réew mi di nga ko jotaat nu mu la neexee bu soobee yàlla jigéeni Gambia ñu ngi ànd ak yow ndawi Gambia ñu ngi ànd ak yow te óor na ma óor yàlla balaa élection boo fi del si waatee di nga gis loolu su la gis si doomi aadama kenn mobiliser sur leen nag kenn mobiliser sur leen yàlla moo lay indil nit yi ndax yàlla bu la dénkee dara jox la lu mel ni réew dina la jox maxaam ak xam-xam boo ko mën a yoree yéen waa Foni Kansala nañ nangu ne jamono wecceeku na ñu nangu ne nguur gu bees wecceeku na ànd suñ gom yàlla ñu ànda bokk ak Adama Barrow bokk ak moom liggéey réew mi.
It appears it will take some time before the people of Foni will withdraw their love for APRC for any other political party. Fatou Kamara reporting for the Fatu Network News Review.
TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. Free. Tough.
Now, Turkish military has donated items to the Gambian army. The non-lethal items were handed over by the ambassador of the country, that is Turkey there, Mr. Tolga Bamak. More in this report. The non-lethal items were handed over to the nation's army chief by Turkey's ambassador to the Gambia, Tolga Bamak, on Tuesday.
Today, we have the pleasure to hand over the military equipment generously donated by the Turkish armed forces, and I sincerely believe that this equipment will contribute to enhancing the operational capabilities and effectiveness of the Gambian armed forces and their future achievements in UN peacekeeping operations in the future.
Turkey's top diplomat says his country is committed to relations with the Gambia.
I would like to underline that Turkey is a genuine friend of the Gambia, and we are committed to strengthen our bilateral relations in every field, including military and defense cooperation, as we used to do. And we are doing this through mutual visits, bilateral agreements, training programs, and some military aid programs.
Army Chief Lieutenant General Yakuba Drame conveyed the Army's gratitude while receiving the items.
As an institution, we remain exceedingly grateful. And we want to thank the government and people of Turkey, and by extension the Turkish armed forces, for all the assistance they continue to render to Gambia armed forces under all circumstances. We consider the relationship to be one that is characterized by confidence and trust. And of course, to crown it up, it's a genuine and reliable relationship. On the basis of that, we consider Turkey, to be more precise, the Turkish armed forces, as a strategic partner in the development of the armed forces. Today, the equipment received, I can assure you, they'll be put to good use, simply because it is going to enhance the operational capability and readiness of the armed forces in many ways. Oh yes, if somebody who trains your soldiers and officers, equally, not only that, support them from the material perspective, giving them all what it takes to move on the armed forces to the next level. To me, I consider that to be a very genuine partnership.
Relations between Turkish army and that of the Gambia date back to the 1990s. The items donated include military fatigues, belts, and jackets.
Do you want to win millions of dollars this December? All you have to do is dial *777# for free or call or SMS 1010 at $3 is only to participate in the new Afri show and be part of the 7 daily winners.
Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays live on GRTS, Afri Radio, and social media platforms. Be part of our lucky winners.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Now, two foundations that deal in maternal mortality have engaged journalists on the recent maternal mortality cases in the country. Father Kamara tells us more.
Gambia Women's Life Matter movement continues the fight against maternal mortality. It all began with conversations around the issue and then a protest earlier this year. Mama Care Foundation, in collaboration with Mali Foundation and Mothers Healthcare Foundation, called a press conference to share with the media maternal mortality deaths that have occurred in the past 2 weeks. The organizers explained scenarios in which hospitals are guilty of medical negligence.
Apologies there. We have an issue with the sound of that report there. I'm now joined by my guest, my very last guest for 2020, no other than Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, presidential candidate of Citizens Alliance. Doc, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you and Happy New Year in advance. Was I your first guest in 2020?
I wouldn't remember, but you are my last guest for 2020. Memorable year, a year where unprecedented events happened, and finally we are going into 2021. Doc, it's been an incredible year. This is a year where the world had to deal with this pandemic. We still have the pandemic. But also, it is the year that churned Dr. Ismaila Ceesay out as Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the politician. Looking back, you spent many years as a lecturer at the university, teaching students. Now you are here, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the politician, the presidential candidate of Citizens Alliance. Looking back, the journey in terms of your transition from being Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the professor, and now Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the full-blown politician. What can you tell us about this journey, this transition?
Well, thank you very much. You've asked me a question that I've never really reflected on. You've used the word the transition from a political science professor at the university, analyzing politics, the development of Gambia's politics, to being the politician who now is ready to apply the theoretical thinking insofar as Gambia's politics is concerned. Well, it's not been a very easy transition. It's always fraught with challenges. Being a professor at the university, you have a 9-to-5 job, whereby here you have to go and teach. You exchange knowledge with the students, and everything is predetermined and predictable. Being a politician, especially in a country with complex problems, is very different, whereby you don't own your time anymore, and especially within the context of a new political party, you have to understand that as well. That the Citizens Alliance is a very new political party that is trying to make inroads in Gambia's political landscape in terms of making people aware of the party and its agenda for the people, getting the message out, and making sure that we build our grassroots support, our grassroots base. So it's been very challenging, but again, this is what we signed for. You would recall that we lived in the diaspora for close to 20 years. And one of the things that we had signed for is that we want to serve our people. So anything that has to do with service. I mean, if you could also recall, the transition from me moving from Europe to coming back and teach at the University of Gambia wasn't very easy. But then again, we had one thing in sight, that is the transformation of this country. And this transition now that happens from being a professor now to a politician also, we have one thing in sight, the transformation of the Gambia. And the challenges are many, but it's a sacrifice we want to take for this country.
Has it always been a dream for you? I mean, you were, before recently being appointed or elected CA presidential candidate, you were until that time an independent political analyst, a professor. But has this always been a dream for you to see yourself in politics?
It has always been a dream for me to serve my country in whatever capacity. And fortunately or unfortunately, politics is the vehicle that is used, obviously, to serve and develop our country. But it has always been my dream since I was young, especially in the latter part of my years when I traveled to the West and I saw how the West developed. And I looked at the history of the West development. And I had always, at that time, made a pledge that if my knowledge did not benefit my country, then it is worthless. And it was there and then that I made a pledge and I made a commitment that I want to be part of that generation of Gambians who will transform the Gambia and build the modern Gambia in whatever capacity. But again, in fact, that is why I came home from Europe to come back to the Gambia and serve at a time when it was very difficult to come and serve in the Gambia. So it's a bigger picture. And today, that dream is still alive, that I want to be a part of that generation of Gambians, because I always believe that it takes one generation to change the fortunes of the next generation. If we don't build this country today, our generation, we will pass on that job to the next generation. But are they equipped enough to do it? The world is changing so fast. Our education system is crumbling. So therefore, there's a sense of urgency that this generation now needs to build this country for today and for the future, so we can leave a better Gambia behind for the next generation. And it has always been a dream to be part of that generation, and today I'm part of that generation, and I think that's something I should be happy about.
Before making up your mind, finally, to go strictly into politics, as a political analyst, what was your assessment? This is a country since independence, a country that has been trying to burrow its way to towards development. What was your assessment prior to you deciding to become a full-blown politician?
My assessment was simple, that here is a country with a lot of potentials. However, that potential and that power has not been matched by the leadership vision needed to transform that potential and that power into something that can make every Gambian live in dignity. So there was a mismatch, a misalignment between potential and power and the vision that leadership needed to build a country, a modern country. And because of that, in fact, that is one of the reasons. That is at one end. Because there are three levels here. That is at the first, that with all this power and the potential of this country called the Gambia, if you take stock and do an inventory of this country for 57 years, you'll see that we've achieved very little. Not only that we've achieved little, but we're not progressing. Gambians were better off 30, 40 years ago than now, relatively, obviously, if you put all other things into their proper context. But not only that, we also saw how today we have complex problems in this country that are near to perennial. In every sector, what do countries do when they have problems? They find solutions to those problems. Yet, there is no tangible solution offered by any government to these problems. You can name them. If you want to name these problems, I will spend the night here. But not only that, we also, as an analyst and as a politician, I look at trends. I look at industry trends. Not only Gambia, but I look at also regionally and globally. I look at social trends. I look at economic trends. I look at demographic trends. And I look at environmental trends. And based on these trends, I try to use these trends to kind of have a picture of how things will look in the next 25, 30 years' time. And the picture isn't looking good. If you look at the trends, the way they are going, and the direction these trends are taking, the Gambia must be ready. Especially, let us come to just take one of the demographic trends. The projections are that we will be 5 million people in 2050. That's about in 30 years' time. And 30 years is nothing in a country's lifetime. So, how do you build a country for 5 million people? Are we prepared to house 5 million people? Today, there is a lot of traffic congestion because we didn't build roads for 2.5 million people. We didn't put electricity grids and electricity capacity, energy capacity for 2.5 million. That is why today we have not enough electricity. We didn't put enough water facilities to serve 2.5 million people. We didn't build enough housing for 2.5 million people. We didn't prepare jobs for 2.5 million people, whereby 65% are young people. That is why today there is a lot of unemployment. That is why today there is not enough electricity, not enough water, not enough roads, not enough housing. Now, that is what the Gambia, we, this generation, inherited. That is why today it is so difficult that our young people are dying in the seas. They don't want to stay in their own country. Our farmers don't benefit from their farming. Our young people who are staying in this country are jobless. Our children are not getting access to good education. Our people are not getting access to good healthcare. People are dying out of things that they are not supposed to die from, because we didn't plan our country properly in every aspect of the way. It is our responsibility now to look at these trends and understand these demographic realities and say, in 2050 will be 5 million people. Out of these 5 million people, how many will be young people under the age of 5 that will be needing nursery school education? What kind of nursery school should we build? That is in line with a country in 2050. What kind of hospitals are we going to need? What kind of diseases will Gambians suffer from in 2050? You anticipate these things. What kind of jobs will be available? How do we create these jobs? How do we go back to the education system and reorient our curriculum to ensure we prepare our young people for jobs that are not created yet? You go to UTG today, you get a degree. But that degree will become redundant in 10 years' time. Because of the globe is in flux, things are changing. How do we understand that in 2050, with the way things are going, technology trends, with artificial intelligence, with drones, with those kind of things, how do we make sure that we change the dynamics of the education system to anticipate for jobs that are not created yet and prepare our population for those jobs? These are the things that made us go into politics, because these are the things that we don't talk about. The debate quite too often in Gambian political discourse is who should, not how should we solve today's problems, how do we anticipate future problems and start finding solutions for them, how do we ensure that our natural resources are used in a sustainable manner so that we can benefit from it, but also the next generation can also come and benefit from it.
Now let's talk about your selection. That was the speculation, but that was also the reality. Well before CA went to Congress, what much was speculated was that Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, of course you were away, but Dr. Ismaila Ceesay was going to be the leader of the party. That was what was speculated, and then the nominations came, and then you were the one who was unanimously nominated. Very easy. And then you went to Congress, it was endorsed, ratified. How did you see that? The fact that this was a new party, a party that was just emerging, and then you being a member of the party, you were united, there wasn't any resistance at all in you being the leader of the party. How did you see that?
Well, I think CA did well, in the sense that when we conceived of the party and we set it up, the first thing that we agreed on was that we will not impose anybody on the party insofar as the leadership is concerned. That we will not build a party that will revolve around one individual. That will build a party that will be based, anchored on a vision. That people will like the party because of the vision and the agenda that the party sells. Now, the leadership position was left open. So that is why up until Congress, there was no leader, apart from the interim leader of Dominic Mendy, there was no substantive leader. What we are supposed to do is what we did. That is, we asked everybody who is a member of the Citizens Alliance, we put it on billboards, we announced it on the radios, we announced everywhere that we are going for Congress. Anybody who is interested in any of these positions, you can make it known to the electoral committee. But if you are also interested in any position, from party leader down to treasurer, you can also put your name forward. We left it open for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Now it is left for party members and those who want to be a party to put their names forward or to nominate somebody. Now, if there's consensus in people nominating me and endorsing me, we have no control over that. What we have control is to ensure we put the right systems in place to elect the leadership. Now, if that system produces Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, based on consensus, we don't have control over that because we left it open. We gave everybody the opportunity to elect, to choose someone. Had it been that somebody else was nominated, we would have gone for elections. It means that I would have gone for elections with somebody else. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you talk to, there was no other person who put him or herself up for the position.
Did you try to interrogate that, to find out why this was the case, why there was no other person? Because that was the only way that could have at least offered Gambians an idea as to who really was planning or trying to be the leader of this party. I mean, you guys, of course, will have to come forward. You guys will have to speak to your delegates. But it was so easy.
No, but I mean, obviously, democracy is not perfect. We used the democratic route. That we leave it open, nominate anybody, nominate yourself. But you also have to understand one thing. Since the inception of this party, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay has been working hard for this party, going to places, going to every part of this country, selling the idea of the party. So I think people saw my leadership qualities. People saw that this is the guy who's got the vision to really lead this party. And that confidence I'm grateful for, obviously. They have in me. So if they elect me based on consensus, I see nothing wrong with that. Had it been that there were other options and we refused to follow the democratic process, then perhaps people could fault us. But we really left it open. It was announced everywhere. We cannot force people to come up and take leadership roles that they don't want to. So we left it open. We followed the democratic process. It was very transparent. And the system produced Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, and I'm very grateful for that confidence.
In your speech, what you said was for far too long. People see, well, that is your acceptance speech there. I listened to it. You said for far too long. The old guard were accusing the young people of not wanting to come to take part in politics. Now young people have gotten up and taken part in politics. They are saying these are young people, but you are saying that you will not be well. You are going to be there. You will not be deterred. You will continue to work for your country. Those were your words. Why do you think that is the mood, the feeling or the perception among the old guard, if you like.
Well, that is also the same perception among the young people, that the old guard should now give us a break and retire from politics and let the young people lead. I mean, these things are things that surface in politics. For me, age is not really important. What Gambia should look for now is competence and leadership. That is what we need now. But again, like I said, for far too long, the old people have been telling us that, young people, you are lazy. Go get up a job. Now we are up again. We are trying to change this country. So I think what they should do is to support us and not to discourage us, to say that, no, you are young, so you cannot lead. I mean, we've seen countries. If you look at France, their president was less than 38 when he came to power. If you look at Canada, Trudeau, when he came to power, he was in his late 30s. If you look at Austria, when their president came to power, he was 28 years old. Obama led the most powerful country in the world economically and militarily, and he was under 43 years of age. So for me, and I'm older than all these people, obviously, so I'm not as young as people might feel as well. Having 11 years of experience at the university teaching political science, leading a whole a department of political science, holding leadership positions in many organizations. And I think I have a vision for the Gambia. And that vision must be implemented for this country, because I believe in the potential of this country. I believe in the potential of the people of this country, especially the young people. The moment I made the pledge that my life is for Gambia, I'll make sure that I give my life to the Gambia.
And I also think someone called you a small boy. Did you hear that?
No, I never heard of that comment.
Well, someone called you a small boy. Okay. So,
but
we'll get to that. But then now let's continue with the Congress, because the Congress, what was also done was the icing was applied on the cake. There was a rally, a grand rally in Bekama. I was there. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Ismaila appeared in his gown, in his white gown.
Yes.
And the pictures got distributed. Wow. That's Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. Finally, you made your presence official. As a, you stood in the roof of your car. Cars were honking. The excitement. But Doc, you went to your rally, and these are some of the things that you said. Some of the things that basically the same things that you said at the Congress was what you repeated. But now, clearly, here you are, one of those people who really want to challenge the incumbent, President Adama Barrow, at next year's presidential election. And clearly, the president is excited about what is going to happen come December of next year. This is not just going to be about President Barrow, but this is also going to be about all the others that will be vying for the country's top job next year. If you look at the terrain, the political terrain, you look at the President Barrow camp, NPP, you look at all the other political camps. In terms of CA and how young this party is, do you think, in your opinion, do you think you stand absolutely any chance of making any significant impact?
Enormously. We stand a significant chance, if I may borrow your significant impact word. We stand a very strong chance. We are not going into this thinking that we are going to lose. We are going into this thinking confidently that we are going to win these elections. We have a very clear agenda and a very realistic agenda that we are selling to the Gambian people. We'll sell it effectively to the Gambian people, and we hope that the Gambian people will buy our agenda and give us the mandate to govern come 2021. So yes, we believe that we have a very big chance of winning the next election.
What is your agenda?
Our agenda is, if you look at our manifesto, it is hinged on 4 pillars. The first pillar is to ensure or to recognize that the Gambia has enormous resources, but these resources must be harnessed. What has not been happening since independence is to build the right institutions and come up with the right ideas to harness these resources to serve our people. That is why, since independence, Previous leaders had always thought that the solution to Gambia's problem lies outside. We disagree. We believe that the solution to Gambia's problem lies in the Gambia. That is why if you look at the foreign policy of previous governments, it's based on two: the territorial recognition of the Gambia diplomatically, but also how to tap foreign aid from foreign countries. We said no, we have to lessen our dependence to the outside world because we have enough in this country to make us go by. If the Gambia is to produce all the goods and services it needs in the air, we will have a very strong economy. So one of the things is to look at our resources. What do we have? How do we tap our untapped marine resources, because they've sold everything to outsiders that are making use of it? How do we tap our very little tapped tourism industry? How do we tap the River Gambia? How do we tap our sand and undersand resources? How do we tap our agro industry with all its value chain from livestock to poultry to agriculture, you name it? How do we, so what ideas do we bring to be able to harness these resources and build the wealth that is needed? So once that wealth is needed, is built, we, by building that wealth also, you create decent jobs for Gambian people. So you now invest this wealth in the Gambian people. How do you invest it? Not to give every Gambian money, but we want to have a pro-people agenda. What is a pro-people agenda? The people come first. We invest every dime on the Gambian people. We invest in our healthcare sector to ensure that the human resource in the healthcare sector is top-notch, that the equipments are top-notch, that there are enough medicines to cure our people, that there are enough beds, that there are good, not only good hospitals, but enough hospitals. It doesn't make sense if a woman in a village, in a particular village in the Gambia, a particular town, should go kilometers or walk or on a donkey cart to access quality healthcare. We think quality healthcare should be accessible to every Gambian. It's not fair, Lamin, for me to be able to provide private healthcare for my family, whilst a teacher or a military officer or anybody who is a servant of the Gambian government will have to go to public healthcare and not get access to quality healthcare whilst we all live in the Gambia. We want to invest that money into education so that my child can get access to quality education. But the teacher in Badibo or in Nyome or in Foni's child should also get access to the same quality education. It is unfair and the heart of inequality and breeds instability if our children are not exposed to the same amount of quality education. So we want to invest not only in education, making sure there are good schools. We invest in Gambia Collect, the place that trains teachers, produce good high quality teachers, build good schools, equip them with teaching aids for handicaps, and also with the materials needed to make sure our kids get quality education.
How are you going to get the money from in a country that is poor?
You see, it's not poor. That is the problem. We've been forced to believe that we are poor. We are not poor. That's why I said, if you look at the first pillar, is to look at our resources. That is, realizing that and accepting that we are not poor, we have the resources. Now, the resources are there. This is the story with Africa. People make us believe that Africa is a poor continent. Africa is the richest continent on earth. If you go to the DRC alone, DRC's resources alone can feed the entire African continent. You name it, from cobalt to uranium to oil to petrol to diamond, you name it. Africa is a rich continent. But we've been made to believe that we are poor. People come outside and come and exploit our resources to enrich their countries, while we stay here thinking that we are poor. Gambia is not a poor country. People come to the Gambia and enrich themselves and go back to their countries. And we live in this country thinking that we are poor. We have enough resources in this country.
Like?
Our agro industry. We have a fertile sand, Lamin. If you throw stone in the rainy season, it will grow. We have our tourism industry, which is very unique in the whole African continent. 5 hours from Europe, pleasant weather, nice people, fine beaches. We have the River Gambia. We have not even tapped 5% of its potential. So we have a lot of things to do. It's about thinking and innovating. So we have the resources in the Gambia. There are countries that we are far more better than in terms of resources, and today they are ahead of us. In Singapore, we had independence in the same year. The World Bank went there and called them a hopeless case, that they can never make it, that even Nigeria will make it better than them. Today, Singapore is one of the models that the Gambia looks up to. Rwanda, no ocean, no sea. They just have a lake, as small as Gambia. Today, we are looking Rwanda as a model. that a country 25 years ago was having a genocide. So what is the problem? It's not like we don't have the resources. There are countries that are richer than us. Switzerland doesn't have any resources. Sweden has 0 resources. So what should these countries really make it? And we sit here thinking that we are poor, whilst all our resources are here, and other people are coming from outside, exploiting our marine resources, taking all our fish stock away, and we are sitting here saying that we are poor. Our fishery sector alone can be able to feed this country. And also about production, we need to produce, Lamin. We are consuming more than we are producing. A country that consumes more than produces will end up in poverty. Today, if you look at the Gambia today, everything we need comes from outside, from our clothes, to our food, to medicine, everything. There's no single thing we produce in this country that we use and the surplus we sell to the outside world. Look at the Senegalese supermarket today. Almost everything there is made in Senegal. From their mayonnaise to their ketchup, why can't we make it? These things are things, that is the agro-industry and its value chain we are talking about. So that is the problem. We need to change our mindset. We need to have a paradigm shift insofar as we think about our own development. Otherwise, the country will not move.
Why do you think it has been so difficult, really, if the country wasn't poor, was rich? Yet, all these things that you're talking about, we do not have them. You look at the Gambian, the first thing that greets you is poverty. People go to bed hungry. That is poverty. Why do you think it has proved so difficult, so complicated?
I told you from the beginning that we have not been able to match our potential with the vision and leadership needed to move this country forward. That is the problem. We need a leader who is patriotic, who puts country first, who put people first, who will use the resources of this country and invest it in our people. It doesn't make sense when our government is spending billions of dollars in things that are not important, whilst our people go home hungry.
Are you the person?
While our children, I mean, it pains me, if I go to traffic light and if I go to turntable, at 10 at night or midnight, I see a woman carrying a small baby in the back begging with the kids. Those kids are supposed to be sleeping and preparing to go to school. It pains me when I see our farmers farming their entire life, yet their farm cannot benefit them. It pains me when I see somebody who serves his country as a teacher, as a police officer, or as a military officer. You serve your country for your entire life, for 40, 50 years, yet you retire and you cannot even get a piece of land to build your own house for your family. It pains me. It means we have to put our priorities right. We need leaders who are selfless, leaders who think of serving their people, leaders who put their people first, and leaders who come up with the right ideas to make wealth using the country's resources and invest that wealth in the people.
Are you the person who can really reverse this disaster or tragedy?
I believe I have the patriotism in me. I believe I have the vision that the country needs. And I believe I have the passion and the selflessness and the compassion that this country needs to move forward. And I have the ideas as well.
You have the ideas as well. Doc, also I want us to talk about President Barrow and the power of incumbency. Really, the president is licking his lips, and the president, what he said just 2 days ago is that a comprehensive defeat, a comprehensive humbling awaits you, the opposition, at next year's poll. I mean, clearly, and if almost on a daily basis, you could see people flocking to him. Do you feel bothered about this?
No. See, I remember just before 2016, Yahya Jammeh said that he's not going to campaign, that he was sure that the victory was his. In fact, a couple of minutes before he cast his vote, they asked him, Mr. President, how do you see this election? He said it's going to be my biggest landslide in the history of the Gambia. This is politics, obviously. The president apparently, while touring the country, sees that he is not popular. And that's why he's playing mind games. He knows he's not popular. The amount of people that are coming out to welcome him is not what is expected of a president who really is touring the country. So he knows he will not win the next elections. He knows that he's not popular. So he's playing mind games. But 2021 is not far away. We are waiting. And be sure that it's going to be very difficult elections for him.
Do you realize that there are people who hold the opinion that it will only take a coalition really, an opposition coalition to stop President Barrow?
I mean, it depends. You see, that also depends on the legal framework at play. Like I said, we have a system called first past the post, whereby even if you have 18% of the votes and 72% of the Gambians vote against you, you'll still win. So it all depends on how things play. For now, we are not seeing that far. For now, the most important thing that Gambians should focus on is to ensure that President Barrow does the reforms that he's supposed to do. We cannot allow a situation where we have to go for elections using the same legal framework, using the same constitution. It would defeat the purpose and it would be the highest level of insult to the Gambian people. We came from a very difficult period. There was consensus that the constitution was not good, that it was tailored to entrench some people in power. And we have to remove it if we are to move ahead and remove self-perpetuating rule. So the most important thing is now, we have to get the right legal framework. Once the right legal frameworks are in place, then we'll know whether it's 50+1 or not. We'll have the term limits, and then now we will be able to give a clear indication as to how the elections will play out. But with this coalition thing, I think we should go beyond that. I think parties should be confident enough and do their homework to make sure we defeat Barrow in 2021.
And now, as Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the CA leader, what is your opinion regarding, this was something that I was always going to ask you, has to do with the draft constitution. What we have seen is that it was shut down, and then now you have this new effort, really, on the part of the government to bring it back. We've seen Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, former Nigeria president, unleashed to Gambia at the invitation of the president, of course, to try to find a way of, finding a deal. And that was a meeting of all the stakeholders. You represented your party at that meeting. I was there. What is your opinion about this, this issue of, if you like, flip-flopping on the part of the government? The government at one point was, spearheading, if you like, the campaign to make sure that there is no success around this charter. And then all of a sudden, the government want that to go through.
It's a reflection of our sad situation. The reform agenda has been pushed in the dustbin of history. And that the only agenda now at play in town is for Barrow to entrench himself in power. That's the only agenda. And anything they will do for that to happen, they will do it. I'm part of those negotiations. And what I told Goodluck Jonathan is very clear. That if you want this thing to work, go and speak to President Barrow. Because he is the man who destroyed the constitution, and he's the one who can make it. We are open for a mediation, and we represent the Gambian people and what the majority of Gambian people want. That is, we want reforms. We want reforms. I think this is something that we cannot negotiate. It's not negotiable. The reforms must take place, and we know who the culprits are. We know who the people are who threw the constitution out because it didn't favor their political interest. And I think we should go beyond that. So for me, it's a reflection of our situation, our sad situation. The reform agenda is consigned to the dustbin of history, and the only agenda, the only priority is how they will win 2021 and entrench themselves. That is why anything you hear coming from State House, anything you hear coming from State House doesn't say anything about 2021 and beyond. The only thing they say is how to win 2021, and that is really scary.
But do you think the rest of the country is being fair to President Barrow and his entourage vis-a-vis the draft constitution? Because they have certain reservations about it. And clearly, they don't seem really happy about the fact that they have their reservations and they want that to be addressed, and you have the entire or the rest of the nation against them. Don't you think really the rest of the nation is being unfair to them?
The draft constitution has over 100 pages. It cost over $116 million. Consultations were done nationwide and in the diaspora. It has a lot of provisions. Some are controversial, some are very progressive. However, that is why if you look at the standing orders of the National Assembly, the manner in which now we do the constitution building process makes room for those negotiations to happen. You see, constitution building process for a complex society is a very complex undertaking, especially our society now, with many wants, different needs, different views. So we cannot get a perfect constitution that will benefit everyone. What was important was that, yes, the president and his entourage has some reservations in the constitution, 1 or 2 or 3. Other people have reservations in the constitution, minority groups. Other people also have, so the idea was that give negotiations a chance, pass it through the first reading, let it go to the committee stage at the second reading. Now the negotiations can start, consultations can start. Then we can talk as a country, see because it's about compromise. What compromises can we do? The retroactivity, should that be the only issue, that we don't have a new constitution? No, it should not be. How do we ensure that we deal with that? So the most important thing was take a constitution to the Gambian people in a referendum to vote. But killing it at that stage, at that premature stage, was the biggest injustice done to the Gambian people, because it did not give negotiations and compromise a chance. At that compromise stage, then they could have said, look, we know what X, Y, Z is our issue. But as X, Y, Z, how do we find a compromise and get a constitution that is not perfect, but at least that reflects the will of the majority of the Gambian people? And that is our problem.
Should this new effort fumble too, what would you like to see as we head into the elections?
The effort to revive the constitution.
Yes, should that also
I hope it does
misfire
not,
too?
because then, let me tell you something. We are going into a very difficult year. 2020 has been difficult, but 2021 will be difficult. It's election year. Amid a very fragile, highly divided political situation. The TRRC is on, the revelations are out, the recommendations will be out in 2021. There'll be elections in 2021. The security sector reform is, we don't know where it is. It's still in the bush, waiting for a savior. So it's a very fragile situation. And elections is going to be the first ever elections since the end of dictatorship in this country. The first ever. Yes. High stake elections. You put in the demographic dynamics there with a lot of young people who are going to take part in this election, who will register to vote in these elections. The last registration was 10 years ago. Now, a lot of young people will take part in this election. A lot of these young people don't have jobs and they are frustrated. So it's high stakes elections. Therefore, we must get it right. We cannot fumble. We must make sure we get the legal framework right so it is watertight. The referees must be correct and must be legitimate. The legal rules must be correct and legitimate. The reforms must be done. So we have a transparent, strong elections that will be good for our stability. We cannot go to elections like you prepare for elections, because elections they can go wrong. We've seen other countries how elections have gone wrong. In Ivory Coast, in Guinea, obviously, in Kenya, we've seen how they go wrong because they did not prepare for it. It is now we need to prepare for this. One thing which is important, the legal frameworks are important. The rules of the game are always important. The officials of the game are always important. They could either make or break a country.
How would you like the IEC, for example, to look like?
I mean, for me, the IEC is fine. But the most important thing is they must be more transparent. They must also ensure that they are seen to arbitrate fairly, so that people should not have any true mind with regards to the IEC. They should make ensuring that they portray themselves as really serving the Gambian people and not a particular interest.
And now, when it comes to the IEC and the election, I mean, opinion is divided over how they should really go about it. You have some who still think that, okay, the marble is unique, let's go by that. And you have some who said, okay, let's also see if we can use the paper ballot. And someone like you say this is a recipe for disaster. I mean, it could lead to chaos. Which one do you think is best for the country?
I mean, societies evolve. Systems change. The paper ballot is not that bad because I've been an international observer in many countries and I've seen how it's been used. But I've also seen weaknesses in the paper ballot. My contention is that I don't mind innovation. Innovation is good. We should use paper ballot at some point. But you don't experiment a new system in a high-stake election amid a very fragile context, a politically divided context. You don't do it. What we are saying is that it must be done, but it must be done at the right time. If you want to try the paper ballot, wait until low-scale councillorship elections, because the population must be used to it. The population must understand how this is used. You cannot bring this, and you have to also understand the level of illiteracy in this country. People never used this before, and you bring it to them for the first time in the highest. If things go wrong, you cannot correct it. But if there was a simulation exercise whereby in a referendum or in a local government election whereby the majority population uses it, now we are able to know, once we evaluate, we'll know the weaknesses that are inherent in the system and we correct them before the final elections. But experimenting this in a very high scale election,
It's dangerous to you?
In a fragile condition situation, is very dangerous. I wouldn't advise anybody to do it. Now, the ballot, marble and the ballot, and the drum has serious advantages. It is transparent, it is unique to Gambia, it is good, it is secure. But also there are disadvantages here, because what the IEC is saying, we understand that we might end up having 20 candidates. We have over 1,400 and something polling stations, which even might increase. Now, having 20 ballot boxes, drums in every polling station could bring about a logistical nightmare. We understand that situation, but I think also that logistical nightmare, post-election violence can be more expensive than that logistical nightmare and bringing those ballot and bringing those drums. What we are trying to avoid is instability or anything that will cause instability. Therefore, it is important that this thing is thought through properly. See, the IEC cannot sit and impose and say this is what we want is going to happen. Let there be a proper national debate on this issue. Let people talk about their ideas about this issue. Let's open the debate. Let us consult widely and then get a system that will work for everyone, that will ensure that elections will take place in a peaceful environment and in a secure environment.
And also, registration will start. People will begin to register to get a voter's card. And as early as in January next month. And clearly, there is a lot of excitement around this. A lot of people, like you said, want to register, want to make sure that they take part in this very high stakes election. But also, what we have seen in recent days and weeks has to do with the fact that people outside, people that are not Gambians, trying to register, the claims and counterclaims flying all over the place, that you have people who are not citizens, yet they are being mobilized, if you like, to come and get our voters card or our documents, vital national documents. As a political leader, one of the political leaders, did you hear this? And if yes, what would you have? What would you say about this?
Well, obviously, we've had these allegations. However, as a party, we have confidence in our security officers, especially our immigration officers. And when I heard these allegations, I made a few calls, especially at strategic locations whereby these things can happen. And then I have not get anything clear yet. We're still investigating because these things are very serious allegations, and they could be very dangerous. So therefore, we don't want to jump to conclusions. We are doing our findings. We are talking to people who might have an insight to the story. And once there is ample evidence and enough evidence that this is what is happening, it could undermine the entire integrity of the whole electoral process. However, we are also going to be very vigilant during the registration process, and I want this message to be clear. We are going to get volunteers to make sure where registration takes place, we are vigilant and know exactly who is registering. And any suspicion of anybody holding Gambian documents, and you are not Gambian and trying to register, that is a serious criminal offense, and we'll make sure that the state, the security officers deal with you. So we are advising anybody who's not a Gambian, don't allow yourself to be used by politicians to put you in trouble, because if you are caught holding Gambian documents, trying to register to get a Gambia's voter's card, you might get into trouble, and people should try to avoid that. But we are investigating, we are following, we are going to be very vigilant during registration. In fact, we are not even happy that registration is only 6 weeks. It should be more than 6 weeks, because people need to get their documents to go and register. 6 weeks is too short for me. I think the population has increased. We are almost 2.4, 2.5 million people. A lot of young people will register. So I think this would even increase the time of the registration, open it 6 weeks. The 6 weeks window for us is too small. This is something that we'll have to engage the IEC. It's either there's an extension, but every Gambian who is eligible to register must register, because like I said, 2021 is going to be one of the most important elections in the history of this country. You can only compare it to the 1965 elections, the 1970 referendum on republicanism, obviously the 2060 elections that ushered in democracy and rule of law, but again 2021, we are going to vote for development.
What do you make of what role do you think the diaspora should play in this election? Clearly, what we have seen, the Gambian diaspora, when it comes to Gambia, I mean, they're just so much into it, and it's amazing, it's remarkable. And there were campaigns, of course, to have the diaspora to even vote at next year's election, As a political leader, what role do you think the diaspora should play in this election?
To vote. They must vote. And that is one of the things that we are emphasizing that must happen before next election. They must operationalize diaspora voting. See, diaspora is a very important constituent in the Gambia. I call it the Gambia's middle class. Today, the reason why when fuel prices go up or the price of food commodities go up, there are no protests like in other countries. It's because it is theirs, and the protests are coming mainly from, because it is the diaspora that really pays for it. They pay for the increment. So therefore, they must not be disenfranchised. They produce 20% of our GDP. And therefore, if you look at it today, Gambia, one of our key economic drivers is remittances from the diaspora. So this is a constituent you cannot just ignore, you cannot disenfranchise. It cannot happen. So for me, the most important role they could play is for them to galvanize and come together and make sure they put pressure on this government to make sure that they register to vote in the 2021 election. That is the best they can do for us.
And also, what do you make of the role of money? What we have seen, I covered the US election this year. I was supposed to be there, but COVID didn't allow it. But what we have seen is that money plays a very important role in an election, even in a country such as the United States. Millions or billions, if you like, of money was what was spent in the election. Quite expensive. I mean, I'm talking about the political parties and the amount of money you spend. In the Gambia, same hold true. That is exactly what is going to happen. And some political pundits are already saying money is going to, he who gets more money than you will give you all kinds of trouble. As one of those people who will be out there in the political trenches, what do you make of the role of money?
It will be a misnomer if you compare money used within American political context and money used within Gambian political context. What we are seeing in the Gambia is what they call the political economy of embezzlement, where the government steals from the money of the people, uses the resources of the people to go and campaign to those people and give them the money to vote for them. Your own money. They take your money, they give it to you for you to vote for them. In the American political context, yes, money was a key factor. How was it used? It wasn't used to buy votes. It wasn't used to give people money for them to vote for them. And how was it raised? It wasn't used by taxpayers' money. Wasn't used. It also wasn't used through unscrupulous ways. It was raised through crowdfunding. It was raised through donors, and they use it for political mobilization, transportation, communications, branding, and so on and so forth. Advertisement and so on. But in the Gambian context, a different thing. A government getting money from donors who have serious economic interest in the country, giving contracts, and they get kickbacks from that money. They use state resources to the maximum, and they go to the people, and they know the people have problems, food, and other stuff, and they give people money to buy people's votes, and we think that should not happen in our politics. However, the optimism is that Gambians are not will not be fooled anymore. They'll eat your money, they'll take your bag of rice, they'll take your oil, but when it comes to voting, they'll vote for development. They'll vote for the candidate that will ensure or that will guarantee the future of their children. I mean, I've gone around the country. People want change. People want a better future for their children. People are tired of being deceived by politicians. That is why I'm telling you, look, money will be a critical factor only if used for political mobilization, for logistics, for branding, for adverts, for movement. But believe me, anybody who thinks that you can buy Gambians votes anymore by giving them rice and sugar and money for them to vote for you, you are fooling yourself.
Also, Doc, let's talk about one thing. No sooner had you stepped your feet in the political waters than something came up. This report that Dr. Ismaila Ceesay was involved in fraud. That Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, when you lived in Scotland, in the UK, you were engaged in fraud. You sublet your apartment to an illegal immigrant or migrant, if you like. And I mean, this created this whole noise. I want you to tell us what really happened. What did you do wrong or not wrong?
One of we call it occupational hazards of a public officer. You choose the right as no sooner Congress came out and installed as flag bearer, this thing came out. One thing that should be clear, me using my private flat and letting it to somebody, a Gambian who needs a flat, it's not a matter of public interest in anywhere. And I've said it in a WhatsApp, in a YouTube, in a Facebook Live.
But Doc, I will disagree there. That is a matter of public interest. You are no more some private individual, you know. So whatever you do, public or private, is public, Doc.
If I commit a crime, yes. My private flat, I let it out to somebody who needs it. It's not a crime in anywhere. It's not a crime in Scottish law. It's not a crime in Gambian law as far as I'm concerned, so I don't see the fuss about it. And that is why I don't want to dignify certain allegations and the people who make those allegations, because they are only for political purposes. And I've said it before, if I have the opportunity to let out my private flat again to a Gambian who needs it, I'll do it.
But is
it is not my job to find out whether he's an illegal immigrant or not, because Scottish law doesn't give me the power to find out the immigration status of people. My role was that he needed a flat. I have a flat. I rented him my flat. It's that simple. It is not my job to know his immigration status.
But one thing that is also clear, as somebody who has his flat, you have every right to vet whoever you are subletting or letting your, or reletting, if you like.
But that vetting has a limit. It's not my role to find out whether he's an illegal immigrant or not. My role is that he's got an ID card. I know that his name is who he is.
But do you think you could get into trouble on that?
No way. No way. It's very clear. It's not my role to know his immigration status. That's why I'm not even worried about this story. They can make a noise about that story, but for me, it's not a matter of public. It's not an important story. I have my private flat. I let it out to a Gambian. And
to a third party.
Nothing is wrong with that. As long as the landlord knows, my landlord knows.
So you mean you told your landlord that you are renting it out to someone else?
I'm not naive. I was traveling. I didn't want to lose the flat. I told my landlord, I'm traveling, I'm letting it out to. He said, go ahead and do it. As long as the rent is paid, the house is taken care of. See, when people don't understand how things work in the UK, they can make these things. These things are minor. These things happen every day in the UK. It's not a major thing. That is why I didn't want to dignify it. I didn't want to dignify those who peddle these allegations around. And it's not an important issue. I think today, we have more important issues in this country than talking about Dr. Ceesay letting out his private flat to a Gambian who needs it. We have more important issues we should be talking about. Every day, our women are dying in our hospitals. You just had a report every day. How many women die in our hospitals?
But there is nothing stopping Gambians also from trying to figure out or know who they are trying to hand their country to.
I've said it before that, look, we don't mind being scrutinized.
Yes.
The moment we said we are going to get into politics, what does that mean? It means that we want to govern you. You must know the people who want to govern you. They must be people of character and integrity. Scrutinize us. But it must be done in a professional manner without malice or not in a reckless manner. We don't mind. Scrutinize us. What do you expect? You think I just come and say, Gambians, vote for me without they scrutinize me? No way. If you want to employ me today to work for you, you do credit background check on me. You tell me to bring my CV. In the Gambia, it's not that, but in the UK, you have to bring your disclosure. You go to the police, they bring you, whether we are convicted or not, they do a thorough background check on you. So obviously, we don't mind Gambians doing a background check on us because we want to govern them. Because they are going to entrust their country to us, their economy to us, agriculture to us, their children's education to us, their healthcare to us. You don't just give it to anybody. We must do that. We must be done in a very fair manner. whereby it doesn't smack of malice. We don't mind, obviously. But like I said, if anybody has any evidence to show that I've really committed fraud, let them bring it. It's very simple.
Who do you think might be behind this? In your opinion?
I'm not interested.
Because honestly, the people, I mean, I read these things and it would appear that it reeks of people really who know you, who are even close to you.
But for me, it doesn't matter, to be honest. I mean, if there are true things, if they are true, there is some truth at the word. But when people peddle these things, we don't mind. We are focused on one thing, Lamin, is to work hard to build this country for today and for the future. We cannot be distracted. Our eyes are set. We have a journey. We have a destiny. We must build this country, Lamin. It's a sense of urgency. We don't have time to waste. Our children, 5 million people are going to live in this country in 30 years' time, Lamin. We have to start building this country for those people. We cannot be drawn by petty things that are not important to the Gambian people. Let's talk about the issues that are affecting our people. Our women are, like I said, people are dying every day in this country. Life here now doesn't mean anything. You die just like that. Our children are not having access to good education. Businesses are closing down. Our youths are dying in the Atlantic Ocean. Every day, our youths are dying because they want to go to Europe. Yes. Let's find solutions to these problems. Let us discuss these issues because they are very important. Dr. is letting his flat to a private flat to somebody. It's a business of the Scottish government to deal with me if they think that I've committed a crime. That should not.
I also want to ask you, I mean, I call it a scandal. and when I spoke to, I mean, these are people trust or believe that this man is that clean because he is a clean slate human being.
What's the crime? I mean, that's unfortunate if he thinks like that. What's the crime?
That you would really want to hide from?
We all are the past. There are things you've done in the past.
Claims, really serious claims that you even sold cannabis.
You see, this allegation move me because why I know they are not true. People make it for political purposes. Let us see what they've done for the country. I've served this country. Politics, very difficult. For no other reason but to change my things that they've not done doesn't move me. The only things that, you see, what people say or think about me, they're like, what can I do about it? And shares it online. How can I control it? I cannot control that. What I can control is my actions. I take full responsibility for it. If I do anything that I know I've done, I know I'm not perfect, I'm a human being. Gambians you don't pass that you don't want to do. Now, people move on. We've evolved, we've changed, we've developed. What I have control over is my actions and I take full responsibility. Should there be anything that I have done, whether in the past or now, and people bring it to my notice, I'll come and say, look, I did it, and this is why I did it. But the things I have not done, they can go about and accuse and accuse and accuse. It will not distract us. You see, there is a conspiracy to keep us quiet, to tame us, but they cannot. Let them bring something else. They started with the cannabis story, it didn't get anywhere. Now they're talking about fraud. Next, what they'll do, they'll say rape, and they'll say armed robbery. See the trend. They started from cannabis, it didn't bother me because I know it's not true. They came with the fraud stories, and now it's gone. And now they'll come up next, they'll say, well, Dr. say raped a girl. But these are things that will happen. Like I said, I don't mind. They can go about and accuse. Those who know me, and those who know me know the kind of person I am. And like I said, what people say or think about me, I have no control over. Absolutely. What I have control over is my actions, and I take full responsibility. Any day, and I give you this today. Something comes out about me that is true, I've done. I'll say, look, I did it. I'm not perfect. It's either people understand the context why I did it and forgive me and move on, or they don't. It's that simple.
Doc, do you have anything final to say?
We hope will be better. However, let me just reiterate this, Lamin. The country is in dire straits. The country needs to be saved. This is a sense of urgency. The way the country is going is scary. I think Gambians should unite for a common purpose. That purpose is to save this country. However we might want to do it. Every sector is failing. And 2021 is a turning point. We're at the crossroads. So I'd like to thank you and the Fado Network, and I wish you all a happy new year. And I wish every Gambian, those who are watching us, those in the Gambia, those in the diaspora, I wish them all a Happy New Year, and I wish the President Adama Barrow and his government a Happy New Year, and we hope that they'll do the right thing in 2021.
Happy New Year. I would like to take that opportunity on behalf of my organization to wish you and your party and your supporters and your members a happy 2021.
Thank you, Lamin.
Thank you. So that is Dr. Ismaila Cisse, which will cap news review for 2020. Thank you, our listeners. News review. Sajo was here yesterday, and then I had to come today to round everything off. But thank you for being there. We appreciate all your support and trust and confidence. We'll be back next week. That will be in 2021. Thank you, and a Happy New Year to you all.